It's not, my computer doesn't want to act right today. So I'm going to have Fred record so we have this available. I'm not sure if that's right.
Comms and all of the necessary documents. And as long as you put it into that web-based program correctly, it will tell you automatically what they are eligible for. And so it won't let you go any further than what, you know.
All right, just testing. Do you all mind muting your mics as I come on? I want to make sure we don't have no echo. All right, y'all can hear me well? Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm going to convince y'all that this change in RFC process is going to be awesome. Here are 3 reasons why you should like it. 1, no one likes waiting on their money. So if I could find your attachments, it can move quickly. 2, admin request for cash is easy to review. So if you get your admin attached to your clients and I'm still looking for a lease, you get to wait for that paycheck. So that's going to be a plus plus. And 3, it will help everybody be uniform. So welcome to our new request for cash training process. I hope you all buy into it because this is going to be the process. I did post the request for cash online, so I'm going to go through the pulling down of the request for cash form and that whole process. As you work with the form, let me know if you have issues with the form itself. Sometimes once we place it on our website, micros on these Excel documents work today, and tomorrow it goes haywire. So if you have problems with the form itself, and I'm not talking about you don't know how to use the form, I'm talking about it's not working, please let us know. It might be corrupted, and we will make sure one email to you. All right. Um, I did literally 2 minutes ago sent over the HOPWA request for cash form. The form I sent to our HOPWA agencies will be for you to use as we go through this training. It does not have your awards IDIS number on it. So you will be receiving another request for cash form with your IDIS number. And that's for our HOPWA agencies. Agencies who have not received their contracts as yet is here with us. It's being signed. You're going to get your contracts. Didn't know contracts are dated December 22nd. December 22, because that's when we got our contract from HUD. However, you are allowed to charge pre-award costs, eligible pre-award costs based on your environmental exemptions as far back October 1. Pre-award costs, but also keep in mind, whole lot of money this year. How much pre-award costs we put on a new grant because this fund's have to last until our next grant year.
Tomorrow,
thank you all for
your voice snapped in and out when you said the date that we could go back to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe people put this like here. Is this better, everyone? Okay, so the contract is dated October 22nd, 2023. That's our award date from HUD. Pre-award costs dating back to October 1st, 10/1/23 will be allowed on all contracts based on your environmental clearance exemption. And because nobody identified construction in their award, everybody should have some form of exemption. And y'all should be fine with dating your expenses to 10/1, October
Tomorrow.
6th, 23. Yes.
Yeah, I think some people are still having trouble hearing over the chat.
I'm gonna have to do something.
Yeah, I think
Hold on.
Miss Jelk says she can't hear. Then someone else has their call-in number.
No, let me come out, Fred, and then try coming in again. See what happens. Eh?
Okay.
Let's see.
Your email?
Nope, no mail.
Testing my mic. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can someone test their mic?
Yes, we can hear you.
Still can't hear you. Dang it. I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear me?
So give me a second. I'm so sorry. Let me do this. Okay, is this better? I have echo.
You have an echo.
Fred, I'm gonna come over there. I'm gonna work
Okay,
off your
that's fine.
computer. That's fine. I'm gonna take one of your computers in that next room. I'll be over there in a second.
Okay, that's fine. You go. That's fine.
The mic. Is this better now? All right, just had to make Fred move. Thank you, Fred. You can sit in my office if you like. I don't know what's going on with my mic and my computer system, but once again, happy Friday. The information I was trying to share is that the contracts, if you have not received your contract, it's in our office being signed. Agencies who did their things ahead of time, your contract has been returned to you. The contracts are dated December 22nd, because that is the date we receive our contract from HUD. Because of the waiver that came through January 2023, you are allowed to charge pre-award costs. Eligible pre-award costs based on your environmental clearance dating back to October 1, 2023. Everybody receives some form of environmental clearance exemption because no one is doing construction this year or major rehab. So you should be fine, everyone. We're going back to October 1, 2023. If you have some different type of environmental clearance and you need clarity from us, feel free to reach out to me. But that's the date for pre-award costs. But keep in mind, all grants are kind of small. So when you're looking at your pre-award costs, don't make sure you have enough to last until the end of the grant year for your budget. All right.
You have a question. The cycle will be December 22nd of 24.
Yes, except December 21st, 2024. It's still going to be 1 year. December 22nd, 2023 to December 21, 2024. So even though you can do pre-award costs, you still only get 1 year. You're not getting additional, it's not going to shorten the contract time. So you might have a gap in services again, depending on when our awards come back from HUD. So plan that out ahead of time. All right, y'all. As I also mentioned, HOPWA agencies, you received your request for cash blank form this morning, but 2 minutes ago. That's the blank form. All HOPWA agencies will receive an updated request for cash with your IDIS identifying numbers on there sometime by the end of the day or tomorrow. ESG agencies, your request for cash is on our website. I will take you through that process of pulling it down. If you're having problems with the formulas in the request for cash, when you pull it down and save it to your desktop, please let us know and we will try to figure out whatever issues may be embedded in that form. All right, and because I'm on a different computer, I need to go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint.
Somebody asked us another question too. I got to put it over in the chat.
You can't see that. What is that?
So must claim expenditures from dates 10/1/23 to 12/3, all listed on RFC 1 as was the case with the previous grant.
You're allowed to, I won't say must, but you're allowed to claim expenses from 10/1 to December 2021 of 24. I hope that answers your question. All right, let's share my PowerPoint. So pull up. Any other questions before we start our presentation? What's the question? No. Okay.
See nothing. Like somebody's trying to join in.
This will be recorded and also posted on our webpage. Okay. If you didn't have a chance or opportunity to pull that in your request for cash form, I will show you where to put it. But the request for cash form, along with the bulletin describing the process, is available on our website. We went through this process briefly during our implementation session, but for those who wasn't there, and especially for the individuals who will be doing the request for cash, I'll go through this in detail. I hope to get some questions. The request for cash will be submitted. Oops, you're only on the same page. There you go. Requests for cash are required to be submitted at minimum of once a month. The longer you hold on to your request for cash, to think it's going to be easier if you just do one big request for cash, the longer it takes to process. And it makes it difficult for us to track it. So make sure you submit your RFC at a minimum of once a month. RFCs can be submitted on the 15th and or the 30th of each month. The request for cash must be sent to the appropriate mailbox for request for cash. If you send your RFCs just to tomorrow, it will not be processed because 99% of the time I'm not looking for request for cash in my inbox. It must be sent to these email addresses if you want your request for cash processed. Request for cash types. For the ESG agencies only, I am requesting that you all start separating your request for cash type, your admin, your staff costs separate from the client's costs. As I mentioned earlier, it is so much simpler and easier for us to review and process admin versus client. So to help speed up the turnaround time for those RFCs. Also, if you have not realized on your paper, HUD do want to see a separation of admin and staff costs versus client costs. And if it just makes it easier for us to sort through that break down, because sometimes our cables are not where they need to be. We need to go back and fix things. So we were requiring you to separate your request for cash. You have two types of requests for cash for agencies that provide rapid rehousing and homeless prevention. Your first or one request for cash will be for admin only. Admin meaning your staff costs, okay? Your overhead costs, those type of services. And then a request for cash via client services. Requested at the same time or separately. They will be numbered differently. So it will be a request for cash, for example, request for cash 1 will be admin or staff costs. Request for cash 2 will be client services, and will go down the line. You can submit them on the same day, but let's make sure you number them in chronological order. As I mentioned, for example, all client-related requests for rapid rehousing and homeless prevention, including rent, financial assistance, must be submitted on a separate RFC than staff-related costs. Your request for cash will have a cover page or a memo. It's going to be pretty simple. Just one page. You can use the sample that we have here and copy and paste it and fill it in. But we want to have a cover page with the agency information on there, the request for cash number, and then you can put the request for cash amount and the number of clients being served. Signed it by whoever is preparing it. Provide your name and your title. Let's go to the request for cash form. I'm going to take you now to our website. Change my screen sharing. See my computer. I'm confused. There we go. Share. Okay. If you go to our website under federal grants, specialized housing, the ESG program, it's going to be the first program. We have our request for cash form. Click on it, you'll go to your downloads. Okay, we can ask questions, right? While I open this up.
Let's open up. I'll just hit the
All
drag.
right, and you go to downloads again.
When it open up, this probably to pull it.
No, yeah, just something else. Okay, if you can see this, most likely when you download this form, you'll have this explanation point. This is because we have micros built into the form that helps with our cumulative report. The cumulative report button, and I'll show you that in a second, will not work unless you enable Microsoft to work that process. So you have to right click. You have to, hold on, my IT program showed me this. Show more the properties, that's what it is. Hope you all can still see it. But once you go to properties, you gotta go to unlock, you gotta go to okay. Nope, I think they gotta apply. Properties. Okay, that's good. And that should open it up in the way that you need it to be opened.
Tomorrow, I don't see a form. I see the MHC website. I mean, I see the ESG page on the MHC website.
Okay, so you're not seeing the download?
No, we don't see the download.
Let me share that again because y'all need, that's something y'all need to see.
Click on the ESG and it'll take you to that ESG section where the forms are.
If you're working on two different screens, it's only going to
Yeah.
show the one screen.
There we go. Now y'all can see my download folder.
Yes.
Okay, so when you download the form from our website, it will show this exclamation point because it's locked for some reason. And the only way to get your last page and your caper to work, you have to right click, you go to properties, and it will say allow or unlock. It's not showing it right now because I already unlocked it. And you press OK, unlock it, okay? I'm going to show it again, hoping that y'all can still see it. Because other than that, the last caper will not work. You have to, y'all can see my downloads? Can y'all see the downloads still?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right click it, properties. You see the little box down there that says unblock? Please someone agree that y'all can see that. Y'all can't see it, dang it.
See this.
No worries. I'll move on and we'll just have to find another way to show you all that. But depending on your encryption and your security you have at your agency, it might not allow you to calculate the last page of the request for cash. If you're having difficulties with that, try it, test it in the beginning, and we'll just have to find another way to get it to you, probably more directly and not off the website. We'll just email it to you directly, okay? But that's all I wanted to show you. Depending on your agency, it might not work on the last page. And if you have that problem, let us know. All right. Does everybody have their request for cash form open? I'm hoping y'all can work through this as I go. I'm going to take that as a yes. The request for cash first page is basically the same, except for one thing. Section number C. So we will start from section number 1. Section number 1 still gathers the general information. You click on the arrow, you select the agency, and all of that agency information, hopefully it's the agency, will pull. Request for cash number is going to be number 1. It's going to be your first request for cash. And after that, each request for cash should have a different number, going from 1 to whenever your last request for cash is submitted. Service rendered, this is the date in which you provided services. If you put on here January 1, 2024 to February 1, 2024, then your request for cash, receipts, and invoices need to be between this timeline. Your request for cash will be rejected or returned if you send a RFC that has 2024 and your receipt says 2022. It's not appropriate. This date represents your receipts or your invoices that you're submitting to us for reimbursement. Don't fill out this section. This is going to be from MHC staff initially they completed your review. And then we have our funding categories. All this information looks the same, except for this. You do not have to complete anything on this page except for the number of individuals served. You will be able to, this one's locked, okay. You'll be able to put in the number of individuals served based on the number of funds, amount of funds, or category of services that you're providing. If this is an admin or staff cost request for cash, no need to put anything in this column. This is only when you provide direct services to the client and you have clients to identify. You put those numbers there. This is individual served. If it's a household of 5, then it's 5. If you're trying to work on it right now, I think that's locked, so I have to go and unlock that page. This is not a new section. Required accomplishments. This has always been there. It says required. No one tends to fill it out. Just a quick sentence, for example, during this request for cash time frame, we served 25 people. All you gotta do is you put the people you served here, just put a sentence here reflecting the service. But I do need something. It's not good to send in a form to our auditors, especially to HUD, if we said that it's required and then it's left blank. So make sure you put something in this section. This is your final request, yes or no. Your agencies tend to forget to select yes on their final request, so make sure you do select yes if it's your final request. If not, continue to select no. Date, who is prepared by, and signatures. Your request for cash will not be accepted if it's not signed appropriately. Now we're getting into our second tab. The consolidated support sheet. The consolidated support sheet has a lot of the same items that you've seen in the past. Just a few things have changed. One, we now have a section for awards ID, HMIS awards ID. You've been doing this, you've been putting in your HMIS award numbers, but we just never had a column labeled awards ID, but now you have it. This is for the client HMIS ID number. If you are a domestic violence service provider, then this can also be a DV ID number. Please do not put client's name on a request for cash. And I know in the past you've done it and it's been accepted, but let me give you an example of where that can go bad. During our training last month for ESG CV, HUD was going through some examples on how agencies get tricked by the OIG and fined. The OIG reached out to this agency and told them to send your client list of individuals who receive services. In response, and doing the right thing, the agency did what? Emailed the client list. And what do you think OIG did? Anyone guess? Finding. Because the client lists high client names. You can't send us emails with client names on it. So we need to get out the habit of doing that. Your request for cash that you send to us with a client name on it is actually a breach of confidentiality. HMIS award number. Now, if you have to put a client name on there, and you're going to email it to us in our portal, lock it. You can send a lock or encrypted email for confidentiality. But if anyone does try to trick you that way and say, hey, we're working with OIG and or HUD and they ask you for your client name, don't do it. Send them the HMIS ID. It's a trick. You have a question? Column A. Okay, and is this for, Kathy, is this for your HOPWA is for your ESG?
I think it's had ESG open, it would not change.
You're supposed to be able to type in it.
The column is not expandable, so the number will not show. So if we end up needing to send you a copy or print a copy, it won't. The number will not show.
Well, how large is the number? That's okay. We'll expand the columns if it needs to. So if you have a column, if you have a number that's like, you know, infinity.
Oh, well, okay. It just looks small to me. I apologize.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I assume most of our numbers are between 10 to 15 characters, but I could definitely expand that once I repost the one that's on our website. And I do need to repost that one.
That picture right there with the plus infinity, that's what I've ended up with sometimes when I try to send y'all a hard copy.
Thanks. I'll expand that row. I will expand that row. Now keep in mind, even though you can't see it, we do have the credentials to unlock these pages and open it up to get those names off of that. So don't let that deter you from submitting your request for cash with the numbers instead of the names.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes,
Good morning, Ms. Stewart. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
This is Shakita at Mosley County. The award ID numbers, I hear you say that number represents the client that's found in HMIS.
Yes.
Okay, so I feel this form out in finance, and are we supposed to have access to HMIS, or are we supposed to get these numbers from programs? Because
You will have to get that number from your case manager. If the case manager is submitting your request to pay rent, ask them to give you a client ID instead of a client name.
okay, and one last question on the front page, where the new criteria for us to include the number of clients served, is that monthly or cumulative?
Is on your request for cash. So if you're doing a bi-weekly request for cash, then the number of clients you serve for those 2 weeks. It all depends on what you're requesting. If you requested $1,000 in rapid rehousing, it's because you housed maybe 4 people or 2 people, the dollar equals up to the number of clients you served.
Okay.
So you'll probably have to work with your case managers to give you that information. What I would suggest is when the case managers submit, they know all of our accounting people tend to work separate. You're supposed to work separately than the case managers. When they submit to your request, their request for reimbursement, ask them, this is 10 rents, how much clients? The individuals, you'll have to work with your client directly to get that. Or we do request that your providers, your inventory or your monthly report, the shelters. You can also get that whoever proposed those numbers. You can get that from there. But this is based on the time that you identify on that service rendered period. Finally, if y'all want me to show you how to run a CAPA report for a certain period, I can definitely walk you all through that process. If you use HMIS, it is a report that you can run for an activity to get that number.
Our program person can do that. I just know finance, we don't have access to it. It would be nice if we could have a read-only version of it to pull these numbers out. But meanwhile, we'll get them from programs.
Yes, that'll be the easiest way to get it from your case managers. But great question, because I do know almost all of our agencies, case managers work separate than the finance person. When they submit their request for your reimbursement, tell them to let you know how much clients were served and provide the ID numbers instead of just the names.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. While I'm on this talk about HMIS, and I don't want to veer too much from where we're going from, I do know HMIS has a capacity limit. If you're running into space issues with HMIS, let us know ahead of time, and we will find out other ways for you to give us that information. I know some agencies go in and delete stuff out of HMIS so they can add more stuff. Sometimes that's more harmful than helpful, because when we go back to look for that same information, we can't find it. So if you're having capacity issues, instead of scanning in a copy that we can read, just let us know. We'll find another secure way for you to send us that information. All right, let's go back through it. So our award ID number, instead of client's name, we're going to put our HMIS award ID number, or our, I think the domestic violence agencies use VILA award ID number there. The vendor, so whoever you're making payment to, if that's going to be the utility company, entity, then you put entity name there. Line item is the same as before, and vendor is the same as before. Line item, what are you providing services for? So I'll give an example. This is my client. And they're getting, I'm paying entity for lights. Yeah. And I have to select my CAPA category. This is the same. What is different in the CAPA category, for those who do indirect costs, you can also select indirect costs in the CAPA category. Other than that, you could just select the type of services you're providing. Invoice date. So when did that light bill come through? My light bill came through on December 31, 23. Invoice number or check number. So if you don't have an invoice number, then a check number, so we can link these items together. This is new. No, you cannot insert a line in the request for cash. Do you have something you would like to add? Then let us know, and we probably can add a line for you, but it is locked. You cannot insert lines. If something you want to report on, let us know, and we can insert that for you. Okay. Date, expense started. This is a new section, and this one here, date, expense ended. These are questions that came from HUD survey. When HUD selects randomly the audit agency, they select a request for cash and they ask for this information. So date expense started will be the start of those services for a light bill. That's 24 months. I mean, that's 12. That's 30 days. Then we know it's the first of the month. To the last of the month.
Actually, tomorrow on the bills, do you want us to put what's on the light bill? Because it may
Yes, put
important.
whatever's on the bill. Don't guess it. Put what's on the bill. I can, as I mentioned, these are the questions that HUD asks, and they line things up. So if it doesn't line up, like Fred says in his monitoring review, if it don't line up, it don't make sense to HUD. They don't know you all like we do, so they need to see things clearly, must line up. Some things does not have a start date and end date. For example, you bought pizza for the shelter. The start date and end date will be the same as the invoice date, right? You bought pizza on February 14th. The start date was February 14th. The end date was February 14th. It's all February 14th. And that's okay, but you must fill in this information. Total on the invoice, this is the same as before. The total bill amount. And total request is how much you're going to charge to the grant. When you send this to us, you have to submit a copy of that bill. That's going to be your appendix. We want to know where is it attached. A lot of times we get large requests for cash, and you all know it's a lot of hard work putting that together because you all put it together. We get like 200 pages sometimes, but it's a lot of sorting. So if you could just put on here maybe attachment A or AA, and you can write on that bill in the corner AA or AB, whatever number that is, that so we can line it up easily if we have to pull it. Any questions on that? Awesome. Going down the line. How dare I forgot to put amount you were funded. So before you even start all of this, you should have put down how much you were amount that was budgeted and that information. This form is missing that. So you know where to put that's missing it right here. So someone took it off. Okay. The amount was funded need to be placed here, and it will talk to the first page, and then they'll move forward from there. I do see that, oh, I was on the first page, there it is. This is where you put the amount request funded. So you were funded in shelter 50,000. That's where you will put it. I had it scrolled up, y'all. Is there another question?
You got quite a few questions over there.
Okay. Do you mind? We're gonna stop right here and take questions.
Tomorrow, are you going to do some discussion on how you want the appendices done?
I was in planning, but I will be happy to.
Well, do you want them, when you say appendix, do you want them, I guess I'd like a best practice, you know, if you want it all by shelter, and for each item, you want a copy of the check, a copy of the bill, a copy of the voucher, if it's an
Okay.
HMIS.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's go through that. For your appendices, your attachment, label it. If it's a bill, you're going to label it based on what you have here in the column, right? If it's something in HMIS, and it's nothing that you have to attach, just write in here so we can know that's there. When you're attaching your bills or your invoices, do not just do one page because that's the page where your maybe your item was. We need the whole thing. Okay, so if you bought $400 worth of food from Sam's and only the first page was related to ESG, we still need to see a single page attached to that bill. We don't need half or a portion of the bill. But in regards to other things that we need, if it's something that you had an invoice and a receipt for, we need an invoice and a receipt. If it's something that a simple purchase is just a receipt will be acceptable. But I can send you an example. I'll post a sample of appropriate documentation to attach to your appendix and not appropriate documentation. So y'all can have that as an example, okay? Does that answer your question, Kathy?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Expense start and end date. This would be the service period or the billing period as noted in the bill itself. Yes. If the bill has a service period or billing period, that will be the time. You do an awesome job, community services. Shelter staff be included in the Rockbury House and HP staff request for cash. We will go through the sorting of where staff should go for what category and in the next couple of slides once we get going through this. But if you have shelter staff that does Rockbury housing services or homeless prevention services, then it's actually not just shelter staff. They are your case managers, and they can be charged across the board in those different activities. Whatever activity they provide, they can be charged too. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Yes, your request for cash can go, first request for cash can go back to 10/1/2023. Keep in mind, your request for cash is in chronological order. So if your first request for cash is February 1, 2024, your second request for cash should not be 10/1/2023. So if you want to go back, make sure that's your first request for cash or your first couple of requests for cash to get them off your desk and to keep us in order with the timeline of your submission and your services. Oh, thank you. Someone just gave me a tip on Rhonda. You should train us on how to do Excel a little bit. I appreciate that tip. But she did put a tip inside the chat. If you put a apostrophe symbol in front of the number that's long, it won't give you the weird codes. Thank you.
You already addressed Kevin's question about the sign. So. Yeah.
So if you build RFC, only my signature is needed rather than the signature. Okay, so let's talk about who is needed on the signature. That's a good question. Whoever is your authorizing person. So you are required to send us your signature page, right? On your signature page, that's going to be part of the step of your grant. Your signature page. We have our deposits to for your banking information and your HCF stuff. If you put on that signature page only your executive and CFO name, then that's who need to be signing this. But if you put on there that your accounting manager or whoever else have the authority to sign off on these forms, we go by what you send us. So whenever we send out that signatory page, if you need to add more names to that, then do so, and that person could be, we will accept that signature on the request for cash and on budget modifications. No, you're not submitting a request for cash for each category, just separate request for cash for staff versus client. So you can still charge rapid rehousing, homeless prevention, shelter on one RFC, but your staff costs and admin type services, overhead, things like that, need to be charged or documented separately than rent for a client.
She said, I'm missing something. Please provide a link to the website, please.
Oh, our website, Mississippi Home Corp. MS Home Corp. I'll send you a link to our website. It's under the tab that says federal grants, then specialized housing, and then ESG. That's our website. If you just Google Mississippi Home Corporation, you'll find our website. And you go to the top, it says specialized housing, federal grants, ESG. For the request for cash, entry cells on RFC worksheet allow for numbers such as, no. We won't be doing fractions, it'll be whole numbers. So your staff cost will be 1, your client cost will be 2. Yes, you will have more RFCs, or probably double the amount of RFCs that you usually have, but it'll be easier for us to review and easier for us to go back if we need to. We will go through the breakdown of shelter costs and where you should charge certain items in a few minutes. And I'll make sure I get all the questions related to the form. Okay, I think we could there. So if you go to our website, you can pull down this request for cash. I am so sorry, y'all. I didn't realize this is locked. I'm going to have to repost the form so y'all can actually enter the numbers here. This will be the only place you can enter the number of individual service on the first page. Do not enter your budgets here. That's not allowed. That's not meant for you to enter information. Going back to this last page, once you're finished with this and the amounts, it will start giving us a good calculation at the side, just like before. We just have more information, more detailed information to add to the front page. And you go down to the bottom and you sign. Each request for cash requires the match for that particular request for cash. If you're requesting a reimbursement on $10, then I need a $10 match. If you're an agency that does one big lump sum in your match, that's okay. We will just need you to break it down across the board. For example, if you're matching an ESG grant to another grant like SSVF, Veteran Homeless Services Grant, and you just submit one match at the beginning of the grant, you have to submit it, or you have to separate the amount, the entire request for cash time frame. You only have to submit that request for that match form once at the beginning, but after that, you just indicate in the rows that this is your match documentation. So I'm going to use SSVF as an example. If it is a good match for ESG, it's grant services, it's federal funds, federal grant funds, it's federal grant funds, not there. Okay, it is federal funds. You can put your grant number here. Invoice check number, that's not needed for this. Now, your match amount, if you only requested, how much was my request on this? $150, then out of your total grant, we only need you to match that $150. That's all. And you can make a note in here, probably in the invoice, in the date time information, make a note in here indicating CRC number 1. For match. But we are required, as part of that random selection by HUD, if they pull your RFC and you don't have match attached because it was attached to the previous one, they don't see that. So to make sure everything lined up, each request for cash match must equal or be greater than the amount that they're requesting.
Can we show match starting from October 1st?
If your request for cash says 10-1, then your match needs to be in that time frame. But hold on, sorry, let me go back. Ms. Faye, she's off today. The request for cash, the match is actually required for that program year. That is true. The federal regulations require match for that program year. With the waiver, we can do back to 10-1, therefore a match will be allowed for that time frame if it's connected to the grant. If that makes sense. So clarification. Federal regulations require that match be for that program year. Okay? Traditionally, as you all know, our ESG year is usually 10-1 to September 30th. With this waiver, we can do pre-award costs to 10-1. Therefore, your match can be some of that time as well.
Since we're separating separate RFCs each month, we'll have to separate the match to equal each RFC amount as well.
Yes. So if you're separating, because you're separating your RFC, the match must be appropriate for each one of those requests for cash. Your admin match, in-kind match, grant match. All right. The CAPA page is the same. All the information you put in will automatically transfer over to the CAPA page. As mentioned in our implementation training, it is recommended that once you get here and you have all your supporting documents, you submit your request for cash to us. And if we say it's approved, then you go back and you hit the cumulative, not before. This is because if you have errors or issues or miscoding on your request for cash form and you hit this cum cape, there's no way to unhit it. Once you press that button, it's done. I also recommend that as you finish your request for cash, each request for cash, you save it on your drive or on your desktop before you move into the cumulative and before you start on your next one. Always keep a draft before you move forward. And finally, don't forget to update with each request for cash once you know it's a good request for cash, because you cannot go back and recapture information that you missed previously. Any questions on that? All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint so we can go over CAPA categories or where you should charge activities. Any questions on this request for cash form? I do have a form just for CAPA. I'm going to be sending out with the request for cash. If you so choose to use it, don't start entering information on that until July 1. That's just to help agencies separate it better, because we do know that the CAPA year does not line up with the grant year and usually falls into 2 grant period. So I'm going to send you just a CAPA page. It's double entry, but it will make it easier for those who have to go back and sort through this when it's time for the CAPA report at the end of the program fiscal year. All right. I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare my screen to the PowerPoint. All right, so we went over request for cash form. Section A is general information. Section B is project information. Section C is request per activity. That's going to be the breakdown on the first tab. The new information that's added there was the number of individuals served. That's going to be the green highlight. The total number of clients, and this is going to be us telling us the number of clients receiving services on that request for cash. It does not mean that you have to put numbers on there for clients that was not served during that. That could be newly housed or continued rent. So if you newly house 5 people and you're still paying rent on 5 people, then the total of clients served is 10. You have a question?
Final CAPER report is from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
Yes, so I didn't go through the CAPER. The CAPER reporting period is July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. A CAPER will be due by July 31st, 2024, 1 month to complete the CAPER. Okay, if your request for cash is for staff only admin, then you do not need to put the number of individuals served, because most likely they didn't serve anyone if you're just doing admin on this request. Required accomplishment narrative has always been left blank. Please complete this section. Just a quick sentence, for example, the number of clients you served during that time frame, which you can pull from the units of services. Tab 2, we went through this. Vendor, who are you paid? The CAPER category is a drop-down box, and you must select the category to be charged, and we'll define that later. I want to make sure you'll charge individuals to the right category. Invoice dates, start and end date. We did go through that. That is new, and it could just be 1 day, and that's acceptable. Invoice or check number, make sure you label that so we can help sort through. Also new is going to be the appendices that we're going to talk about on the next page. There it is. Supporting document must be sorted in the appendix. A to Z, 1 to 50, however you want to label it, let's make sure it's clear. If it's something that's not attached because it's an HMIS, just identify HMIS. And because we're using the awards ID, we'll be able to find that information in HMIS. Each request line must include appropriate appendices. If you are using multiple grants, make sure on your attachment or your invoice, you type up the breakdown of that cost across multiple grants. Okay, so it's easier for us to understand a type up breakdown versus a handwritten breakdown. I know a lot of y'all are used to doing that, but y'all can please just do a 1-pager. Maybe you have utilities. You charge 20% of those utilities to ESG, and the rest you charge to another grant. Just break it down so we can know what is to be expected of ESG. Handwritten breakdowns will not be accepted. Amount budgeted, we also saw this on tab 2, is the total amount on the last approved budget. I said last approved budget because sometimes we do a budget modification and that amount budgeted will change. The amount requested to date is the top line only, and it must be updated on each RFC. And that's the same as before. 24 CFR 576201, ESG requires a dollar-for-dollar match. Eligible match is the same as before. Cash contribution, non-cash contribution, program income. We also do in-kind, which is non-cash contribution. Your RFC request amount and your match amount must be the same, or your match must be more than request amount on each RFC. Cumulative financial CAPER report runs we run this cumulative report at the end of an approved request for cash. This is the button, we talked about it earlier. When you pull your request for cash form off our website, if the cumulative button does not work, I try to show you how to get past that, but I think y'all couldn't see it on my screen. But if it does not work, just let us know and we'll have to email you a copy. For some reason, when it's posted online, there are some blockers on different agencies. But if you're having problems, we'll just email it to you, okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
If we have bank debit with no check number, I have been putting ledger inline item with a copy of the bank statement. If there is no canceled check, what will be the biggest category?
Bank debit instead of
Yeah, bank debit with no
yeah.
check number.
What you've been doing before, a lot of agencies have put bank debit on there because they don't have a check number, but we'll line it up with your appendix. So if you put bank debit, which I saw on a lot of requests for cash, and you put AA, then I know to go down to the attachment AA to line that up.
And he's been putting ledger in the line.
Some people put ledger, some people put bank debit. So if that is, you don't have a invoice number, you don't have a check number, that's appropriate once we can match that up to the appropriate or the right attachment. When I say line up, I need to be able to see where that request for cash can be easily attached and identified to that supporting document. Okay, all right, so let's go down to the breakdown. What can be charged where? Well, give a sec, I'm going into a whole different topic, so I'll make sure.
Yeah. Appears at the top of my download, RFC workbook, unable to override. Will this affect?
Yes, that would. That's the issue we were having right there. Okay. I'm going to send the RFC up via email. It is available on our website for those agencies that don't have up a lot of firewalls. You can probably download it. But if you have internal firewalls, you may have problems downloading and overriding the credentials to make it work. So I'm going to email it out and it will work via email. But thank you for letting me know. That was the issue I was trying to explain before. If you have certain firewalls up at your agency, you might have difficulties downloading and working with the phone. All right, going into where to charge what. Where to appropriately charge what. You have been doing this for years, and I know some things may seem different, but this is actually the way the federal regulation has things labeled. And I just want to make sure that every agency knows exactly how activities should be charged and where. If you're doing street outreach, first of all, street outreach is only for what? Anyone want to answer that question? Come off mic. I'll be happy to hear the right answer. Who is eligible for street outreach? No takers? No one knows who's eligible for street outreach? Kathy, your mic is unmuted. No, it's muted now, Kathy. What happened? It was unmuted, Kathy. I'm gonna call on you. Who is eligible for street outreach? Anyone who want to give me a good answer for that? Okay, street outreach is for unsheltered homeless. This is not regular outreach, okay? So if you're doing outreach for your programs, that's fine. If you're doing outreach for shelter, rapid housing, homeless prevention, that can be charged to that category. Street outreach is very unique and it's meant for unsheltered homeless. That's when you're out in the woods, you're in encampments, you're in abandoned buildings, and you're reaching out to unsheltered homeless. If your case manager is doing any type of outreach outside of unsheltered homeless outreach, that should not be charged to street outreach. Street outreach can pay for essential services like engagement, meaning when I first meet you and I see you need emergency supplies, and there's a list on our website, which may include blankets, which may include emergency food, which may include an ID or any essential critical stuff that is needed whilst you are outside, a tent, a blanket, I said that, soap, toothpaste, that can be charged under essential services or fall under engagement. This is you engaging with the client and seeing their most critical needs. Case management can be charged to this activity as well. Transportation and emergency outpatient health services. And all those activities are activities provided to someone who is unsheltered homeless. Other outreach activities must be charged to the appropriate category. Question.
Well, street outreach includes individual living in a vehicle.
Street outreach will include individuals living in a vehicle. Yes, that would. Shelter, other outreach activities will just be anyone who's indoors. So vehicle outreach will be considered street outreach. Emergency shelter. Under emergency shelter, we have two funding components in our drop-down box. One is essential services. The next one is shelter operations. Under essential services, this is going to be the services that you need, which is essential to provide wraparound services or wraparound services is the right way to say it. Wraparound services to that individual or household. That includes case management and case management overhead costs, education services, which may be English as a second language, reading. We can do GED if you see that's a need. Employment and job training, which includes certifications, licensures, job skills, outpatient health services, mental outpatient health services as well. Legal services, but have to be legal services from a licensed lawyer in the state of Mississippi. Services that relates to helping them obtain housing stability. So they need an expungement because something's on their record that's preventing them from getting a unit. If they have maybe garnishments going on that's stopping them from maintaining housing, those type of legal services are available. Legal services does not include immigration legal services. That's not allowable in this grant. Live skills, should be life skills. Outpatient substance abuse treatment. We cannot pay for detox. When I say outpatient substance abuse treatment, that's like going to meetings or counselors and things like that, and transportation. Shelter operations includes cost of maintenance of the shelter, rent for the shelter, security, fuel, equipment, insurance, utilities, food, furnishing and supplies, or hotel motel vouchers. So hotel motel vouchers is not essential services, y'all. It's actually shelter operations.
ED, MP, and job training, could that include a payment for costs for a vocational program offered at a local community college? Rhonda.
Good question, Rhonda. According to the regulations, yes, but we try to stay away from community college because I don't foresee her wanting that detail of services, but what I would recommend is like vocational training. If you have like those small training classes in your community, you can pay for those licensures and those training. You can also pay for someone to come to your facility and provide licensures and training and pay for those books and equipment. The regulations does not say you cannot use community college. I just don't think that was the intention of the regs, because when you get into the community college and college RAM level, it tends to be more expensive. Okay.
Tamara, I'm sorry. Maybe should I ask a question in the chat, or can I just ask?
You can.
Okay. The cap for the expenses as far as paying for a class for the job training, like phlebotomy, pharmacy tech, medical billing and coding, CDL, has that changed from $3,500 cap, or will that be it be the same?
It will be the same. So we have set internal caps on the amount of funds that can be used in shelter for providing employment, education, and training. And that those internal caps about around 3,000 or so, has not changed. But also keep in mind, because we are looking at annual ESG and not ESG CV, is still also at that cap of 60-40. Meaning no more than 60% of the ESG grant can be used towards shelter and shelter services, which includes employment versus rapid rehousing and homeless prevention.
And Ron replied back, said Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College offers several vocational programs for free, but she doesn't know if that includes things like supplies, special clothing, transportation, and fuel costs.
Well, that's a great partnership, Rhonda, if it's for free. And I like free. And we have, if only thing is needed is their supplies, which is allowable under employment. I think again, the MOU from that community college and adding that to your grant, because that's a affordable training, is a good partnership and a good way to go.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's all we got for street outreach and emergency shelter. Take a picture of this. It'll be on our website, but remember this. I have some questions at the end. I want to make sure we understand where things should be charged. Okay. Homeless prevention and rapid rehousing is going to be in the one line. If you haven't looked at our HUD's regulation 24 CFR 576, if you have looked at it, you will realize that rapid rehousing and homeless prevention in HUD eyes are the same thing. The difference is the eligibility part. Okay, to qualify for rapid rehousing, you have to be literally homeless category 1 or category 4. To qualify for homeless prevention, you must be at risk of homelessness. That's going to be category 2 of the homeless definition, category 1 of the at risk of homeless definition. But once you get past the eligibility and the 30% AMI, the types of services for rapid rehousing and homeless prevention is the exact same. What that means is if you have someone who is seeking home prevention because they are losing their unit and you need to relocate them, you can charge deposits under homeless prevention and relocate them. That's allowable expense.
Can you elaborate between short and medium term?
I will. Is it on this PowerPoint? It's on the PowerPoint, so I will get there.
Okay.
Okay. So homeless prevention and rapid rehousing can provide short and medium-term rental assistance and housing relocation and stability services, financial assistance and service costs. Financial assistance is going to be the cost for the client. Service cost is going to be the cost for your case managers. And it's designed to prevent at-risk individuals and families from moving into emergency shelter or living in a place not meant for human habitation. Financial assistance costs. So under your drop down, we have our financial assistance costs. The financial assistance cost includes costs incurred by providing direct services. And if you haven't noticed, y'all, my little subheaders are based on the drop down box you'll find on your request for cash form. Okay. The financial assistance cost doesn't include costs incurred for providing direct services to the applicant. It includes rent application fees, security deposits, last month rent, utility deposit, and utility payment and moving costs. Rental assistance may be short-term or medium-term rental assistance. Short-term rental assistance is anywhere to 3 months. So it's 1 to 3 months. That's short term. Medium term is 3 to 24 months. I guess that'll be 4. 4 to 24 months. That's medium term rental assistance. So the ESG program can pay for up to 24 months of rental assistance depending on the need. And this is where the program's different. And we will look at this more in our case management training. But rapid rehousing requires an annual recertification. Once they get in the program, annual recertification, meaning that we don't look at their income unless you all want to, it's not required. And they can continue to receive assistance up to 12 months. Or 3 to 12 months, depending on how your internal regulations are set. Homeless prevention assistance must be recertified every 3 months. So every 3 months, that's a short-term definition. Every 3 months, you must make sure that person still needs assistance and they still meet the at-risk of homelessness definition. If they don't meet the at-risk of homeless definition at the recertification every 3 months, then they no longer qualify for homeless prevention assistance. But that's going to be more of the trainings they provide the case managers. I just want to make sure you all understood what that meant. So if you all see someone coming up on your request for cash that's receiving 24 months of assistance, it's allowable. It's not against the regulations. The regulation is capped at 24 months and 3 years. So if someone getting 27 months of assistance, and we're still on the second year, that's not qualified. Rental assistance can be provided in 2 forms: TBRA, time-based rental assistance, or project-based rental assistance. And I did provide more information about that in our implementation training, and I will provide more training on that with the case managers. Rapid housing and home prevention also have service costs. Service costs includes housing search and placement, which is housing assessment, developing of a housing location plan, housing search, finding a unit, landlord negotiations, assisting with understanding the lease, assisting with housing inspection, rent reasonableness, and the paperwork related to the rapid rehousing or homeless prevention housing side. Housing stability case management, which is different than housing search and placement case management. Housing stability case management include costs for documentation as well, but not housing inspection, but this is going to be like your ESG application form, okay? Income forms, using coordinated entry system, counseling, coordinating of services, obtaining federal, state, or local benefits, developing a service plan. As you can see, HUD identifies a service plan different than a housing search plan. Monitoring participant progress and re-evaluation. That's going to be a housing stability case management. Some agencies have a separate person for housing placement than for the case manager. If you do have that, then you probably have a housing navigator and a case manager, and it'll be a clear line. But some smaller agencies, one person does it all, and that's fine. Just make sure you divide their time. And you might not want to go into the weeds and say, well, 1 hour here, 2 hours there. You can put a percent and say 50% of my time is going to be housing search and placement, 50% of my time is going to be stability case management, and that's also fine. Under service costs, you also have mediation, legal services, credit counseling, not credit repair, but credit counseling. Any questions with that? All right. HMIS. And HMIS is not the catch-all for when you don't know where to put your case manager. No. Your case manager time for case management should be on the right activity, but HMIS can pay for costs of contributing data to HMIS that's operated by our COCs. So this is going to be purchasing computer hardware, software to license, equipment, teaching how to use HMIS is mainly going to be for our COCs, leasing the office space, and different things like that. You will probably get invoices or bills from the COC for providing these resources, so that bill is allowable to the grant, chargeable to the grant. Other things that's allowable under HMIS would be salaries or staff time for data entry. So we do allow data entry in HMIS, monitoring data quality analysis and HMIS lead. Now, the debate is out between me and my staff that if data entry means a case manager entering data in HMIS or HMIS person entering data into HMIS. I believe it is a HMIS person, not a case manager, but I'll give you more detail on that once I get clarification from HUD. If you're a victim service provider or a legal entity, your HMIS fees can be fees for appropriate allowable software that you're using to track your clients. The software that you're using must be comparable to HMIS and can transfer data into a Sage report. On from there. Let's talk about staff and employment compensation and staff expenses. Employee compensation and other overhead costs can be directly related to carrying out the activity eligible under that ESG component. Determining how these staff costs should be allocated will depend on the type of assistance being provided by the program. Therefore, if you have a case manager providing rapid rehousing services, their office space, their phone, their computer, their pens, pencils, whatever equipment and stuff that they need, their vacation and sick leave or fringe benefits are all allowable under the rapid rehousing category or whatever category relates to what services they provided. To allocate these costs, first determine the program component under which the cost falls. Then allocate the cost to an activity within that component. For example, staff time expended on processing checks for utility payments for program participants could be eligible under the rapid rehousing component for homeless individuals or homeless prevention component, depending on where those checks were going for. The activity will be housing relocation and housing stability services. For the salaries and related costs of staff that are not fully dedicated to a particular component, so you're not fully a rapid rehousing case manager, costs should be reimbursed in proportion to the actual hours worked on each program or program component. So if you have a staff person working rapid rehousing, shelter, homeless prevention, street outreach, divide that time across. But if you have a different staff for each component, then you charge it appropriately. Do not group all your staff to just rapid rehousing or just homeless prevention if you are funded under multiple categories. Staff position that is not, as I said, is not fully dedicated to ESG or HOPWA specific component cannot be paid solely from ESG or HOPWA funds. So that also means if you have staff that's working on your COC grants, your SSBF grants, your Department of Health grants should not solely be charged to ESG, but it should be divided across those different grants. And if you can provide just a brief, statement that time is separated to other grants, that will be helpful. I mentioned earlier at the beginning that this process, even though no one likes change, I will get you to like it because I anticipate one, the RFC will review process will be quicker because we can easily identify information. Two, all of your requests for cash will look similar. And three, we'll be in compliance with HUD. So that's three great reasons. Therefore, if we don't line up, it will not be accepted. Here are reasons why your request for cash will not be accepted. If your request for cash form is not completed, meaning if you don't have signatures or you forgot to put some information, it will not be accepted. If it's not in chronological order, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. If supporting documentation is not labeled in the appendices, A handwritten breakdown of costs will not be accepted, especially because it's difficult to read different handwriting styles. If the ESG requested match is not provided, it will not be accepted. If supporting documentation is missing, it will not be accepted. If documentation needing signature is not signed appropriately, it will not be accepted. If the rapid rehousing and homeless prevention service costs, this is just for our ESG agency, are not separate from the client costs, it will not be accepted. Now, keep in mind, if you're doing shelter, it falls under more, usually no separation in your shelter activity for staff and services. This is mainly for rapid rehousing and homeless prevention breakdown. Shelter and street outreach and HMIS does not have a client and staff separation.
Question. So the expenses and the details don't have to be in chronological order, just the RFC numbers? So the expenses and the details don't have to be in a chronological order, just the RFC numbers?
That is true. The expense and details don't have to be in a chronological order, but because the expense and details will match up the appendix number, it will fall in that order anyway. So if your appendices is A, F, B, D, let's make sure you have that lined up in that order, wherever order you listed it. If you decide that you don't want to do A, B, C, D, and you want to do the alphabet in a different order, that's okay. But I'm going by what you identified in that appendix, expenses box on where it falls.
So,
if expenses are charged to the wrong ESG activity, we went through what should be charged where. If your expenses is charged or coded incorrectly, it will not be accepted. If ineligible costs are included in the request for cash, it will not be accepted. And if the request for cash is sent to the wrong email, it will not be accepted. All right, let's get into our quizzes. Any questions?
I've got anything else.
What are 2 reasons why your request for cash may be rejected? And I want some participation, y'all. Y'all heard me talking now for an hour, my mouth dry. I need to hear from y'all. 2 reasons, just 2, of why your request for cash may not be accepted.
It's not all the way complete.
That's one. Give me another one.
Match is not provided.
Disallowable expenses.
Disallowable expenses. Awesome.
We did have one question.
Okay, go ahead. Question.
Number 8, are you requiring 3 different RFCs? Staff costs, service operating costs, client rent, and financial assistance costs?
No, 2 RFC. It's just 2 RFC. So you're probably getting the confusion is probably coming up based on the CAPER breakdown, but all your staff and admin costs need to be on 1 RFC, and the next RFC can be your client services. So let's go to the request for cash form real quick. Or maybe I need to go to the breakdown. Go to the breakdown. That will help. Give me a second, y'all. Okay, can y'all see this? CAPER category, rapid rehousing and prevention. The financial assistance cost. Oops. Financial assistance costs, rental assistance costs, and service costs. That's different. Okay, so our housing, homeless prevention, and rapid rehousing is going to be on 1 RSC. That's going to be our financial assistance costs, our rental assistance costs. On a separate RSC is going to be our service-related costs, which is going to be our housing search and placement, our housing stability case management, and all our staff-related costs. So 2 RSCs, one for homeless prevention, rapid rehousing, homeless costs, which is financial assistance costs, and our rental assistance costs, and another RSC for our service costs, which is our housing search and placement, our housing stability case management, mediation, legal, and credit counseling. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, my confusion is in the service operation area. An example, shelter utilities payment versus client utilities payment.
Okay, in the shelter, we don't pay for client utilities. Shelter, we can pay for operation of the shelter or shelter utilities, but not client utilities. Under shelter, honestly, you can't, there's no client cost here. These are all the eligible costs under shelter. So you can pay for case management, education, employment, job training, outpatient health services, transportation, another shelter costs, operations, we can pay for rent of the shelter, security, fuel, equipment, insurance, but we can't pay for the client rent or the client. That makes sense. Did I answer that question, Greg?
Yeah, she just said her confusion was that. Under referee housing though.
Oh, under referee housing. Okay, that is different. Sorry, I was under shelter. Okay, under referee housing, you can pay for a client, you will code your client's utilities under financial assistance, your client's rent onto rental assistance. Your staff costs, if they're doing housing search, it'll be in the housing search and placement, or if they're just doing counseling, it'll be under housing stability case management. Was that, who asked that question? Can I? Rhonda, do you mind ask? I'll make sure I get your question correctly. Can you ask that off the mic?
Okay, so here's my confusion so far. So it said, put all your staff costs on one RFC form. Okay. It's all the staff, all their costs. Okay. Then another thing says, now put all of your service costs on an RFC form. Okay. And then it was said, now put all of your client rent and financial assistance on an RFC form. In my head, that's 3.
Gotcha. Yes.
Old brain, I confuse easily tomorrow. You know that.
That's okay. That's okay. So it's actually only 2. It's only 2 requests for cash I'm asking you to do. One will be for your staff costs. We want our staff money to come through fast. And then one for our client services. The breakdown that you see with the 3 different levels, it represents the category you can code it under. So on your request for cash,
I'm just gonna have to try one and let y'all mark it up.
That'll be fine. But let me give you an example. So if I was doing request for cash for staff costs, or on that request for cash, I will select housing search and placement, housing stability case management, for homeless prevention and rapid rehousing. And that's the only 2 categories I'm working out of for that rapid rehousing and homeless prevention staff costs. That's it. And I will submit that. So I'm working on a service cost. My drop-down box will say housing search and placement or housing stability case management, unless I do mediation, legal, and credit counseling. That will be for my staff cost for homeless prevention and rapid rehousing. My next RFC, which will be for the clients, will fall under financial assistance if I'm doing utilities or last month's rent, or rental assistance if I'm doing regular rental assistance and rental arrears. My case management won't be on this RFC. I'm just going to be doing the stuff related to the client that I paid to someone to help that client maintain housing. Did that help? Rhonda, a little bit, little. We can work through one. And you're right, it might take you submitting one for us to go through it and identify or clarify some misunderstandings.
Okay. The case manager that does the housing can't be on the same RFC with the rent under rapid rehousing.
That is correct.
Okay. Should the shelter operation be on a separate RFC?
No. Shelter, y'all can put your stuff together or separate. Shelter, street outreach, and HMIS does not have a separation by HUD caper. So your shelter can be under, or all your shelter can be on one RFC, staff and operation, all on one RFC, and that's fine.
That's it.
All right. So now are you ready for your test? If you ask the question, if I test you, okay, I'm expecting answers. All right, let's get into it. We answered this question already, but yes, here are some reasons why your RFC might be rejected. It's not completed, missing information. Maybe you're missing a match, documentation not provided. Also, if we can't read your documentation because you scanned it in a low quality to save space, if we can't read it, we can't reimburse you on it. So make sure it's something that we can read. Yes, so everything except for client rent and financial assistance, which is for the client for rapid rehousing and homeless prevention, will be included on that RFC. That's the easiest way to put it. All right, question number 2. How should emergency shelters charge case managers time? Should it be shelter operations or essential services?
Shelter operations.
Who says shelter operations?
I did. Vicky.
All right, Vicky. This is a trick question. I found some information.
Essential
How should
services.
emergency shelters charge case managers?
Who says essential services? Be proud of your answers, y'all. This is a free zone. All right, shelter operations. Someone said that first. These are the costs that are eligible under shelter operations. Eligible costs are costs for maintenance of the shelter, rent, fuel, food, hotel, motel, and all this other nice stuff for the shelter building. Think of, when you think of shelter operation, think of hard costs or hard, something, a tangible stuff. You put your hands on it. It deals with the building or related activities. Essential services is case management, childcare, education, equipment, employment services, and everything else. So whoever said essential services, you got it right. And that's a trick question because me and my team was going back and forth the other day, and it might have been some confusion there, but I got the regulations now. Your case management time is not shelter operations, y'all. It's essential services that need to be coded in that order.
Operations equals stuff, services equals people.
That's right. Operations equal stuff, services equal people. Services equal people. Any questions on this one? All right. Where should staff costs incurred for carrying out an activity be charged for? So staff costs for carrying out an activity, where should that be charged?
Essential services.
For all your activities, not just shelter. I'm not identifying shelter, street outreach, or operations. If you have multiple activities, where should your staff costs be charged? Should it just be charged under HMIS? Should it be charged to admin? Even though we don't have admin.
Be charged under the program.
That is correct. To that activity. And for HOPWA do have admin. So you can charge to admin, but you can also charge to the activity for that case manager for the HOPWA program. Question number 4. If a homeless, it's a trick question, y'all. If a homeless applicant is in rapid rehousing, where can staff time for housing search be charged to? Also, how long can that staff time be charged for housing that one applicant? How long can that time staff be charged? So where should it be charged to and for how long?
How long is 3 to 24 months?
Let's go back to the question. If a homeless applicant in rapid rehousing is in rapid rehousing and the staff is doing housing search and placement, housing search, where should that be? Housing stability case management, 30 days. So this is a trick question. Y'all, if you look at the regulation, the housing search category, HUD only gives us 30 days to do that. Staff time can be charged in any other way. But if you say you're doing housing search or housing stability case management, you have 30 days to place that person in housing. After that, it's just going to be case management. In other words, don't put that person in that category if they're not ready. That's the only time you see a 30-day timeline on rapid housing services. Question 5. If HOPWA applicant is receiving STIRMU or facility-based assistance, and HOPWA staff is working with that individual to connect and develop a service plan and work towards goals, what activity is that case manager time charged to? For my HOPWA people. If HOPWA applicant is receiving STIRMU or facility-based, and that staff is working with that individual to connect them to resources, develop a service plan, and work towards goals, where is that time charged to? And HOPWA people quiet. Supportive services. Supportive services have case management time. This is different than your STIRMU or your facility-based time. STIRMU time is for STIRMU activities, meaning that you're getting the documentation for STIRMU, you're doing the paperwork, maybe inspections or whatever else you gotta do for STIRMU. But when you start moving into the case management work of stability and planning and goals, that's gonna be supportive services. All right, y'all. I hope I made your Friday not too bad. The first couple of runs will be a little difficult, but once we get it on par, once we get comfortable, I think we'll be great with it. We are open for questions. If you're having problems, I saw someone already mention it. If you're having problems when you go online to download the link, let us know. I will be emailing out the request for cash form, so you will have it in your inbox. But that's one that, you know, that's the issue we have with the one online. Sometimes the coding doesn't work well if it's downloaded from offline. This request for cash goes into effect with the new contract. So any request on that contract must follow the new request for cash process. You're still working on your old contracts, you can continue to use your old request for cash form. But for our new contracts, the new request for cash form and the new process must be placed. Thank you all so much. Any questions? Anyone else want to get on the mic if they have a question they did not have an opportunity to put in chat? Thank you all. Make it a great weekend. I think it's a 3-day weekend, right?
Yeah, for us.
Yeah. For those who got time on, I think it's Memorial Day weekend, and those who are celebrating Mardi Gras, be safe and enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, 7 more. Presidents.
Hey, Mr. Fred?